I have a new resource for you if you're overscheduled, overwhelmed, and need a realistic way to scale back without falling behind. Minimum Effective Day Planning is a mini training with a guided audio and workbook to help you design a day where you'll do less on purpose and focus on what truly matters, one day at a time. You'll find it at positivelyproductive.com/resources. When you work in focused sprints, genuinely focused, fully committed bursts, and then allow real recovery between them, you're working with your neurology rather than against it. Your concentration sharpens, your decision-making improves. The quality of what you produce goes up, often dramatically, and the speed at which you produce it can go up as well. The alternative, that long, low-grade slog that we mistake for dedication and determination, it actually degrades performance over time. You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a productivity coach certified in positive psychology and stress management. Join me as we explore ways to live a more proactive, positive life with episodes on productivity, self-awareness, mindset, entrepreneur life, habits and systems, simplicity, fun, and more. I understand overwhelm personally as a multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and as a caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and if you're here, the odds are good that you're someone who genuinely wants to get things done, but also hoping there's a better way than the burnout-inducing approach that seems so prevalent everywhere we turn. If you've noticed that pushing harder isn't always working, or isn't working at all, or the way you'd hoped, and you want to explore a better way to do things, you are in the right place. Today, we're wrapping up a series of episodes focused on practical action with a concept my clients and I have been using successfully for years. It will genuinely shift how you approach your work time. We're talking about work sprints. And to use a fitness analogy, think of it as HIIT for your to-do list. There's a reason that approach works so well for fitness, and the same reasons apply to your productivity. So here's a pattern I see constantly with my clients, and as is often the case, one I've lived as well. We sit down to work and we just keep going. We keep pushing. Even if we set a timer, we feel like we need to keep going. We can't stop. We tell ourselves that's what productivity looks like. Long hours, full days, pushing through, grit, grind, determination. Rest feels like a reward we haven't earned yet, or worse, like a sign that we're not working hard enough. The problem is that this isn't actually how we produce our best work, nor is it how we thrive in this process. Chris Bailey, in his book, The Productivity Project, one of the first productivity books that I read, researched this extensively, and in one of his chapters, he studied what happens when people work overtime. Now, to begin with, it can be effective, but what he found is there's a ceiling on effective output. After a certain point, the hours you're putting in stop translating into meaningful results. You're working, but you're not really producing. You're running on fumes. You're calling it hustle like it's a good thing, right? It's a classic trap of becoming busy versus productive. You feel the effects of the work without having the results to show for it. We've been taught that more time equals more output, but that's simply not accurate. At the end of the day, what we achieve doesn't match the effort we're putting in when we push like this. Something doesn't add up. The better way is sprinting. And the best way to describe why sprinting works in productivity is to think about why it works in fitness. And I liken it to high-intensity interval training, called HIIT. Short, intense bursts of effort followed by deliberate recovery periods. You push hard, you recover. You push again. The recovery isn't optional. It's what makes the next burst possible. It's a critical part of the process. Studies show HIIT produces better results than traditional fitness approaches. That means it's not only time efficient, it's actually more effective, which is my favorite thing to hear. And your brain can benefit from the same kind of approach. When you work in focused sprints, genuinely focused, fully committed bursts, and then allow real recovery between them, you're working with your neurology rather than against it. Your concentration sharpens, your decision making improves. The quality of what you produce goes up, often dramatically, and the speed at which you produce it can go up as well. The alternative, that long, low-grade slog that we mistake for dedication and determination, it actually degrades performance over time. It just does it slowly enough that we don't always notice until we're so exhausted that it's very obvious. You know, when you've read that same paragraph 3 times or you're making so many mistakes when you're writing. Yeah, when you're wondering why nothing is working, you can usually chalk it up to overextending yourself. But there's time just before that that you're already in that trap. And this is what we're trying to avoid. Another place that you may have seen sprints represented, and especially when it comes to productivity, is in something called Agile management. In Agile methodology, which transformed how software teams and a lot of other businesses work, it's built on a similar foundation. Both approaches prioritize efficiency, adaptability, and continuous improvement over long, sustained, and rigid efforts. Rather than endless, undefined work periods, Agile project management uses structured sprints, defined chunks of focused effort, followed by review, reflection, and reset. The insight from continuous improvement frameworks like this is focus, communication, and intentional breaks are not interruptions to productivity. They're what build it and build it best. And we can take a page from that for our personal productivity. Our work has seasons and rhythms. We have seasons and rhythms, and honoring those rhythms produces better outcomes than ignoring them. To give you a client example of the power of sprinting, I had a client who was trying to write a book for years, but she was raising a family and running a business and had lots of other hobbies as well. She felt guilty taking any time away from work and home, and guilty about not working on her manuscript either. She had this book inside her that she wanted to get out, and she had a dream of being one of the small percentages of people who actually write a book. She felt torn, and it never felt like enough for any of these parts of her life. Her initial approach was to work on it whenever she could. Can you hear the air quotes when I describe that? That's what we do, right? And she did that, and she probably did it better than most. And she did this when she could for however long. But that meant scattered, anxious sessions that left her frustrated with her output. She wasn't fully present in the sessions that she was working on, and she wasn't fully present in other parts of her life. It's that constant yearning to be doing the other thing. And when we began accountability coaching together, we assessed the situation and looked at how she works best. And we looked at her schedule, and we shifted to intentional writing sprints, short protected windows where that was the only thing she was doing. Now, these were maybe once or possibly twice a week, depending upon her capacity. And sometimes she had to skip weeks too. Combined with getting her into a genuine flow state before she started, which is one of the most productive states you can be in, it's where you're fully focused and present, everything changed. She accomplished more in those limited focused bursts than she had in years, in those unfocused and scattered sessions. And she wrote her book in under a year, no less. Her guilt started to ease. She celebrated her success, and she was able to move on to the next thing, which is actually continuing the process and writing more. If all of this sounds good to you and you are game to try out this sprinting thing, the next obvious question will be how? And the good news is there's an easy gateway to try out called the Pomodoro technique. One of the most well-known frameworks for sprint-style work, it was developed by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s, and the basic structure is simple. You work for 25 minutes with full focus, then take a 5-minute break. After 4 of those cycles, you take a longer break, usually 15 to 30 minutes. That's it. A timer and a commitment to stop when it goes off. Fun fact, the reason it's called the Pomodoro method is because he used one of those kitchen timers that looks like a tomato, and Pomodoro is tomato in Italian. What makes the Pomodoro technique work is the structure. The 25-minute window is short enough to feel manageable, even when you're resistant to starting. The break is built in so you're not white-knuckling your way through your productivity time. And the repeated cycle trains your brain to expect both focus and rest, which actually makes both of them easier over time. And you don't have to do 25 minutes if that doesn't work for you. Some people will do better with a 50-minute sprint if they're working on a longer project and they need more time, and then maybe 10-minute breaks in between. The specific numbers matter less than the principle. Work intensely, recover intentionally, wash, rinse, repeat. You don't need to overhaul your schedule to try this, and I encourage you to not only try the Pomodoro technique as a baseline to see how it feels, but to modify it and make it your own. Consider the following when you do. Pick one task that requires real focus. So maybe shy away from checking email or doing something admin where you're wandering around and it can be distracting. And try one sprint to start. Don't worry about the Pomodoro set of sprints. Start your timer, work on only that one thing, and stop when it goes off and take that break and see how you feel. Then you can start doing more. Notice your natural rhythm. Pay attention to when your focus sharpens and when it dulls throughout the day. And most people will have a window of peak cognitive performance each day. Protect that time for your sprint work. You probably know when you're most energized during the day, not just after coffee. But if you're curious to learn more, check out episode 215 of the podcast on internal productivity rhythm. And it's called the ultradian rhythm. And it's interesting because we think a lot about circadian rhythm when we wake and when we go to sleep naturally. But this is actually a built-in rhythm within us. And when we figure out our energetic periods and we lean into that for productivity, it's a game changer. Also, I recommend planning your timed break. The break is not optional, so I want you to be ready for it. If you feel unsettled by the idea of taking a break, find ways to be intentional by planning what you will do. The simplest things help. Get up, move, look away from your screen, look at something green, all of these things. And 5 minutes isn't a lot of time, but you can make a beverage, hop on the treadmill, do a quick meditation or deep breathing, read a book, anything that is not work. And don't forget to set your timer for that as well. Feel free to adjust the bar. Again, if 25 minutes feels like too much, try 15. If you like the idea of going longer, that's fine too. The goal is to finish the sprint feeling like you could do another one. Not to push so hard that you're one and done. And that may take some trial and error. And lastly, remember to stop. What I mean by this is it might sound counterintuitive, and for some, it's the hardest part, but a sprint only works if you actually end it. If you set your timer and you keep your promise to yourself. Stopping is part of the system, not a failure. And if the kind of sprinting you're trying truly doesn't work for you, you're also allowed to stop that as well. Regroup, consider your options, and try again. There's a reason the break portion of sprinting is often the hardest part. We've been conditioned to see rest as something we earn. But attention is a finite resource, and rest is what helps us keep it, and what makes the next sprint possible. So here's my invitation to you. Pick one task, set one timer, try one sprint. Don't worry about a whole system overhaul, just one. See how it feels, and then try again. Now, I mentioned episode 215 on the ultradian rhythm if you want to learn about your energy. If you find yourself resistant to even starting this process, Episode 271 on how to stop avoiding tasks has you covered, and I touch upon sprints in that one too. When you're ready for more support, my coaching page at positivelyproductive.com has options designed for exactly this kind of work, including a focus boost session, a singular one-on-one coaching session where we design your approach together. You can ask questions and we can put together something so we're co-creating what will work for you. There's also an async accountability option. These are accountability check-ins where I can support you on your actual sprint days via messaging app. I can also answer questions and help you design the kind of sprint that you're going to do via messaging as well. So no appointments are necessary with this one, and you can take action with me by your side, directly cheering you on. I'd love to know how this episode resonated with you. And I'd love to hear how it goes when you try this. So message me, leave a review if this was a good one for you, or try sprinting and come back and give me an update. Your feedback means so much to me. Your time here with me means so much to me. Thank you for being here. Now go set that timer. Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. I hope this episode inspired you, and I encourage you to think about one action you can take based on today's topic. Then share it with me so I can cheer you on. Go to positivelyproductive.com to connect with me, read blog posts, and access links from each episode and download resources.